Okay, guys. Hi. Welcome. We're Team Bad Decisions with a new Lore Linguists episode. This one, if you can't tell, is all about the orcs. I'm here
Wow.
with I'm here with the team's one of the multiple resident orc experts on the team, John. Uh,
Welcome, guys
he's
and ladies who are listening.
oh, there's no ladies on the internet, John. We don't have to be.
Yeah.
We don't have to be cordial. It's just
Okay.
us.
I know that, but you never know, there, mate. You never know. It could be reaching a new fan base. With
Oh,
with all you guys on the eye candy side, there could be ladies watching.
Maybe I've proven to been wrong many times. But how are you? How are you doing?
I, I'm doing good. Doing good. Just enjoying my weekend off. So that's it's been a. I finally got my hair cut today because Indiana's kind of opened back up a little bit less restrictions than you guys in Michigan. So the salon places and haircut places are open, and finally got in after many days of trying to check in on the app and not getting in. So I'm a happy camper because I got my hair cut today because I hate my long hair because it just annoys me.
Yeah, we're still locked down, so I'm slowly. I keep telling my wife I'm gonna put it up in a top knot and wear a kimono around the house, but I'm pretty sure if I did that, she would kill me. So
Yeah, that's
it's
okay
not
as
gonna
long as
happen.
like what would be worse, that or having somebody put it on Twitch or YouTube?
Oh, if I get to pull it off, I'm definitely putting it on both Twitch and YouTube myself.
Yeah, excellent.
But yeah, how is the reopening in Indiana helping your gaming side at all? Do you have
Um,
any games and prospects?
I do. I actually have one scheduled tomorrow. I actually have one scheduled tomorrow at a venue in Michigan City, Indiana. So I actually have one scheduled tomorrow, and so I will be playing it. Coincidentally, I actually will be playing Orcs because he did ask to play against my Orcs. So I always give my opponents in friendly games, do you want to play against Orcs or Chaos? So I always ask just to be nice. I don't care what they play because I hate everybody else.
Okay, okay. I mean, legit.
So,
It's legit.
and then, but the one county to our west isn't fully open yet. So, because they had more cases of Corona, so they were under 2 week more delay than the rest of the state was. So they're just opening back up, and with GW opening back up, which is the biggest thing for all of us which are all of us hobby maniacs, is the GW stores opening up for those. They can finally start getting orders in. So my third box of Prophecy of the Wolf will be coming back in probably a week. Yes,
Nice.
I'd say third box of Prophecy of the Wolf.
I mean, there's no shame here. We're
I know.
we're all the same.
Yeah, I know. There's no shame. There's just, yeah, I couldn't pass up. I have a problem, and I admit
No.
it.
The problem is not enough cowbell.
Never enough
There's
DACA.
never enough DACA. So, with your game, is it gonna be? Are you doing any changes due to the corona? Or are you just gonna play a full game, no masks, no?
I have to talk to the shop owner to see what he's because we're going to a shop. So I'm gonna bring my mask and I'm gonna abide by whatever guidelines he sets up. So I will bring my mask. If he says okay, we don't have to, but I will probably wear mine because it's going to be a public place anyways, and I don't want to, catch anything. I've been working. I'm still having to print the news anyway, so I've been working, and so I'm not symptomatic. I'm good. Life is good, but I don't want I do value other people's safety as well as my own safety. So I will be wearing my mask, and I'm probably gonna institute a we probably won't shake hands or anything like that. Unless there maybe a fist bump if he's okay with that, or just yay or a thumbs up. For whatever. I'm not gonna. I don't know how good sanitizer works on models. I don't know if I'm gonna just dump my things in hand, run hand sanitizer over all my models or we haven't really discussed that part yet. So I guess we'll do that when it comes to game time. I don't know if hand sanitizer will actually affect models or not. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It might be interesting to get a nebulizer or some sort of like humidifier and dump. No, never mind.
No.
I already am too. I'm smart enough to know that I know nothing about it, and anything I say, someone's dumb enough to try. So I'm gonna go ahead and say, talk to a doctor. Dude, talk to
Yeah.
somebody who knows what they're doing and knows what, like, they got knows anything about anything, not me,
Right.
and
Yeah.
follow
I'm
what
the
they have to
last.
say.
Yeah, I'm the last person, So I will abide by the store owner and decide if it says mask. There are some stores that say mask required, and I absolutely will absolutely wear my mask. And if my opponent doesn't want to wear his, I'm okay with that. We're not required. Okay, there's no, like, Illinois has a facial covering requirement by their governor. Indiana has a recommended facial covering, um, thing. So it's not like set black and white in law. But I'm still bringing mine. I wear mine when I go to the store. I just wear mine out. There's actually a hobby store in South Bend, Indiana, recently opened up where I just spent an obscene amount of money at. And they required a mask, and there was actually some guy who got really crappy because they wouldn't let him in the store without a mask on, and he got really crappy, and they kicked him out of the store.
Interesting. Yeah, crazy. But talking about potential fungi in your airstream, we are talking about lore today, and Master of Transitions, Brandon, is going to transition that into 40k orc lore. So, if we're going to go as far back as the beginning of time is where we're going to start this. And the beginning of 40k time is the old ones. So, just a little bit of perspective. The games that we're playing right now is in the 41st millennia, right? Where the year's 40,000 and so on. So, this is 60 million Earth years before that is the old ones. There's a race of lizard-like, sentient, astronomically advanced creatures called the Old Ones, and the Orks actually called them the Brain Boys, right? If I'm thinking
Yes.
I'm
Yep.
remembering that right. And these Old Ones actually, as they advanced and they started this war with the Necrotier, or the race that became the Necrons. So both of them are going at it, and the Old Ones actually genetically create two races to help them fight the Necrons or the Necrotier at this point. So one of the races they make are an elven race that ends up turning into the Eldar, Dark Eldar Harlequin line. And then the other one is the Kronk, if I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
The Kronk, and they become the Orcs. So the original, the first Kronk, are known to be 12 meters tall, huge, hulking, but actually like intelligent creatures. And then over time, they're genetically transitioned into what we know as Orcs today, or the strong, bloodthirsty, barbarous killers. Arguably one of the most successful spreading races in all of 40k, second to maybe Tyranids, but they're without number. Orcs are on, as you can see in the star map, right up into my right, or my left. Orcs are everywhere. Orcs are fighting everybody all the time,
including themselves. They also don't get me wrong. They also fight themselves.
Yeah, that seems to be one of the biggest downfalls in all orc history, is infighting and collapsing of their own civilizations. So a couple cool, interesting things, and I know I don't want to. I want to let you talk, John. But one somewhat interesting thing is that the Old Ones imbued the Kronk and then thus onto the Orcs. They made the Eldar. They had their psychic ability that the Eldar were given, and Orcs weren't necessarily given a innate individual psychic potency, but they have like a mass psychic potential where they're known that if enough Orcs believe something to be true, that their psychic ability in mass actually causes that thing to be true in reality. So many orcs believe that yellow things explode bigger for no logical reason, but because enough orcs believe it, it is true. And there's orc tanks, orc mechs, orc guns that are in literature. A space marine picks it up, and it's just a piece of metal. Like there's no real reason that the object should work, and it is only because an orc believes it works that it actually does. So,
There's
John,
also there's also they also believe other things as well. The colors, they always believe red things go faster. Whether it is a gun that's painted red that shoots faster, whether it is a orc with red paint on himself that he thinks he walks faster. If he believes enough of it, then that's way their society is developed. Again, blue is another lucky color, not just because of our jerseys, but because blue believes is the color of luck. That orcs have if they paint their faces blue, they can dodge bullets. They can become immune to a missile. They probably aren't, but in their mind, because enough orcs have painted themselves blue, and they believe that they are invincible.
oh, interesting, interesting. And then, is there any other colors? Are there, say, green or?
Well, they are the greens. They really typically. So a funny side note is like orcs have never known. They think the color. We always joke around in the orc community as the color purple being sneaky, and why? But everybody's thinking, well, purple's not really a sneaky color, right? Because everybody can see purple. Well, orcs believe that if you have purple on, they can, again, with them being sneaky, they don't care what color they paint themselves. They can, but typically, if you paint your orcs purple, they're usually sneaky ones. Why? But even though they stand out more than anything else in an orc army, but because orcs believe that purple is actually sneaky, and so you'll see a lot of purple sneaky gets around there, and it's because they're believe that the color purple is actually sneaky color, which makes no sense from a logical standpoint of view. Because what colors can you see? Oh, I can see purple.
Yeah.
You're not. You blend. Would you be able to distinguish between a purple orc and a green orc? Oh yeah. Why is that one purple? Because he believes even though he sticks out like a sore orc, he still believes that he can't be seen. I kind of like, I'm gonna go to Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers Endgame, where Drax was sitting there going so slow that he was eating the chip that he renders himself invisible.
Yeah.
I don't know if so that's kind of that mentality there.
Gotcha. Now, I don't necessarily play orcs, and I know I'll defer to you for a lot of your knowledge, but when I do play against orcs, there's usually the boys, and then they've got some grots and maybe some Gretchen, or like if you go far enough back, there was snotling models. What are those? Like, are they all orcs, or is it?
They're all orcs are like Tyranids. Tyranids are created from the biomass, correct?
Yeah.
They're from orcs are created from spores, and when a spore is very underdeveloped or a spore goes bad, you have what's called snotlings, and snotlings are there's the society. A chief orc is called your war boss or your warlord. He's the biggest orc. Everybody thinks he's the best because he's either killed the guy above him, and he's the one that's like, yeah, I'm the best. Nobody can beat me, until somebody else beats his head over. And then there's the hierarchy of knobs, which are like his bodyguard. They're like the elite. They'd be like your stern guard. You're more and then your mega knobs, which are your orcs, which are knobs that believe that if they stick themselves in a giant suit of armor, they're invincible. They're just walking. And then your common orc. Then you have your common orc boys, but they're also cousins of orcs called Gretchen. They're just not a fully developed orc. They're more like a genetic failure. So they didn't get to be a full orc. But Gretchens are a lot different than orcs. They have a longer nose. I mean, if you've noticed, the Gretchen models kind of have a longer nose. Their brains they have a little more. I don't say they have more brains, but like, while an orc skull is just a big, huge, giant cavity that can survive clubs and survive many hits. A Gretchen's brain's actually really soft, but there's more in there, if that makes sense. So Gretchen are kind of a little bit more intelligent, but in an orc society, Gretchen are they're the laborers. They're your laborers. They like to kick them around. They go out and use Gretchens to go find minefields. A lot of special Gretchen get to hold ammo for the orcs in battle. Some of them will carry explosive devices that just detonate themselves. And the Gretchen don't mind. And the thing is, the Gretchen don't mind doing it. However, there are some Gretchen we'll talk about later that really don't like orcs being bullied around, and they will submit themselves to testing and be stuck inside big giant machines called killicans. And that makes the Gretchen believe that they're now better than an orc, and you'll see there's stories of many killicans that have turned traitor on orcs because now Gretchen has a big giant suit of metal and goes to beat up his master that was beating up on him earlier.
Interesting.
Now there are snotlings, which are snotlings would be compared to nerdlings in the 40k universe, but they are smaller. Now snotlings, all they do is their food. Their main purpose is food for the orcs themselves. And they also tend the spore fields, which orcs populate. Orcs are normally an asexual race, which means you don't see very many orc females out there, have you? Yes, there have been in World of Warcraft. I'm sure there's, you can pick a gender, but typically in the universe, they do not reproduce sexually. They reproduce because part of them gets killed and then it gets put into a spore field. The snotlings take their parts and put them in, just like an acorn growing taking an acorn and putting it in themselves. The only true way to have orcs not populate is to actually burn their entire bodies, burn every part of it. Because any part of an orc can be regenerated. Sewn back together, or regrown into a spore field. And the snotlings are the people that they use to do the spore fields, and which creates the more orcs.
Interesting.
So if a marine player, bring a lot of flamers. If you really want to just make sure the orcs don't ever repopulate, bring flamers. But again, model wise, you've never seen, how many female orc models have you seen in the lore one?
None in 40k.
Right. So but as I explained to you earlier, back in the old Blood Bowl days, there was female orc cheerleaders, but just because every army had cheerleaders, but you never see, even in Lord of the Rings, if you look at the Lord of the Rings orcs, did you ever see any female orcs in the Lord of the Rings?
No.
So they were all created. So again, the best way to kill an orc, just burn them down. They do stand about the same. They are about 7 to 8 feet tall, but because they're all hunchbacked and their spines are a little different, so they kind of don't really look like they're 7 to 8 feet tall. But if an orc was going to stand straight up and tall, he'd be about 7.5 to 8 feet tall.
Interesting. Now, you mentioned the brains of the Gretchen being a little bit more sophisticated than an orc brain. Does that have rules precedence in the game too?
As far as okay, so because orcs they're more developed in melee because they're a bigger, bulkier, and so orcs normally will hit on a bliss skill of 5+. Gretchen actually have better sighting, so they hit on 4+.
Okay.
So they do have one better ballistic skill, although their strength and toughness compared to an orc is nearly half of an orc. But Gretchen are always more dangerous in larger numbers. So just because you'll see 30 Gretchen running around, Space Marine players would laugh at them. But when you have 30 little guys running at with sharp teeth and some claws, a couple of those guys still might get through to you and still just, scratch that beautiful powered armor off and kill a few guys off before the Gretchens just merely get wiped off. But they are dangerous in larger numbers, which is why you see lots of orcs go to battle with Gretchen because, again, as in chess, send the pawns in first.
Nice. Yeah.
Go first.
A question came in from chat about squigs. Now, they're the colorful balloon-like kind of like dogs.
Right. They're pets. They're pets that are formed. I don't know the actual, they never really got into it. I threw away all my orc books every edition. And there was one edition that explained how a squig was created, which I was very sad that I was looking for that today, and I could not find that. But squigs are like the pets of them. They're used for many different purposes. For one, food. Orcs are cannibalistic nature. They don't eat. They're not going to eat Space Marines. They're not going to eat Eldar. I mean, if they're desperate, that's when they turn to other forms of food. But typically they'll eat a squig. Now, squigs, the blood inside a squig is actually lubricant for all of the orc vehicles because it's a very oily, thick, it's a very black and oily, thick mixture inside their blood. So they will just squeeze the squig like you would be squeezing an orange, and out becomes the loop. So all the orcs, that's why all the orcs always have their exhausts are always so black. It's because that's squig oil from the squigs.
Interesting. And I'm assuming this doesn't bode well for squigs. You probably have to get rid of the squig if you're going to get the oil out.
Right. And then there's right, exactly, and most of the time they'll juice the squig and then they'll eat it. They'll eat the rest of the flesh off of it and there are different squigs. There are squigs that are attached with bombs attached to them. They're just explosive squigs just to go out again and just self-detonate themselves. There are squigs that have giant, larger teeth on them, and as not so much relative to the 40k lore, but in the Sigmar, squigs can also get colossal. You have your basic squigs, and you have your giant mammoth cave squigs, which are like monstrosity 12-foot diameter squigs that can eat everything. And then there are a lot of goblins in the Sigmar lore that can actually ride squigs as mounts.
Interesting. Is there any link between the Age of Sigmar lore and the 40k lore for orcs? Are they similar enough, or they're
similar enough to where they except for like in Sigmar they don't really go through. In 40k we have 6 major clans. Sure. And in Sigmar I don't know. Back in fantasy, in Warhammer Fantasy, they abided by the 5 of the clans because nobody ever heard of the freebooters in fantasy, but they still adhered to the major clans in fantasy, but I don't know as much in Sigmar as what they've changed in Sigmar, because they have all those War Scroll battle tomes and different this, and Iron Jaws and Savage. Some of the similarities do back from when I remember from old school Warhammer Fantasy. So, but as far as Sigmar, I'm sure some of it's ported over, but I don't own a single Sigmar book, and I have reasons for not liking Sigmar.
Yeah, it's okay.
Well, it's only because I'm a purist from Warhammer Fantasy, and I was so disappointed that line just got toasted. So.
Well, there is news. This will be on probably a different episode, but they're bringing back the old world.
Right.
So,
but who knows when it'll come back?
Yeah, it's probably some time out still. But touching on that you've played for a while, right? You've played Orcs for how long now?
Since first edition Warhammer, so like over 30 years.
So, as you're the best person to ask this question to, how have Orcs evolved from first edition and their general play style all the way through to today in your 8th edition?
Well, the first editions of Orcs were always... So I can't remember what the technology's always been the same. It's always been ramshackle parts held together with rivets and belief and just welding parts together. And the mechs, which are the builders of the society, they just built and they just start bolting things on, strapping on guns. That has remained a constant throughout the entire lore of Orcs. They don't sort of streamline, they don't perfect aerodynamics, or the ramshackleness or the scrapping of all the Orcs has been the one thing that has came through the entire Orc lore from first edition ever. Then from you notice your Space Marine vehicles clean cut, they're all clean, and armor plates are all welded neatly. And everybody who's seen Orc stuff known that things are just bolted together. They just put parts everywhere. And they need a wheel, they'll use something to attach the wheel onto. They'll put on a gun, they'll just attach it with a couple screws and it'll probably fall off while it's driving. and the gun will just fall off. A lot of the rules wise have stayed pretty much the same. That orcs have been a dominant melee army. There has been a few weird changes, like, for example, the orc truck used to have a rule that you could put as many models as you could on the truck, and it could transport that many models. So literally, you could stack the truck up and just keep putting models on it. And I'm not joking. This is not a joke. Okay, people are probably laughing. You could actually literally just put your models inside the truck and stack them as high as you'd want to. But the models that fell off actually died in the game. But they could literally transport as many models as you could fit in there. There was no transport capacity. So,
Interesting.
and then as you would move the vehicle, if any models fell off, they actually died in the game.
Okay.
So,
was that a tactic that you used back in the day where you could just...
Yeah. So like you're thinking Jenga, you're thinking like an orc truck with Jenga.
Got it.
So, and then you'd sit there and build your truck. You'd make sure you position, turn one guy to the left, turn one guy to the right. So they would kind of sit on top of, they would kind of sit this way. So you could kind of build. Back when I was seeing other people play orcs, I've seen a orc truck have 50 orc boys just stacked in random spots, and it literally just, guys got clever though, and I didn't think of this. They were actually hanging them by their weapons, which was actually a legal move because they were still on the vehicle. So they would just take their choppas and hang them up, like on the railings and stuff like that. I was like, oh, that's pretty clever.
Yeah,
so
interesting. Okay.
Oh, there's a couple. There was the custom force field back in the day of 3rd and 4th edition, but it was actually a heavy weapon, so you couldn't. It was a weapon, not a piece of war gear, or you actually couldn't move and use it. It would grant a 2+ invulnerable save in a certain amount of inches, but if the orc guy had to move, you couldn't use it that round.
Got it. So you had to place it and then turn it on.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if if the Big Mech rolled a 1, the force field, kind of like the shadow fields for the Dark Eldar. If you rolled a 1, the force field was gone for the rest of the game.
Oh, got it. Okay. Interesting. So, you mentioned a little bit earlier that there were 6 major clans.
There are 6 major clans, and what some people don't know, there's actually, back in 3rd edition, had a breakdown of each one of the tribes. There's actually 6 tribes to go with each one of the 6 clans, and you could actually, each tribe had a specific, they would either put it on their back or they would have it on their armor. So there are 6 major clans. There's the Goth clan, there is the Death Skulls, there is the Evil Sons, there is the Bad Moons, there's the Snakebites, and then the Reject clan is the Freebooters. The Freebooters are interesting because the Freebooters are created from orcs that get kicked out of the other clans, or their encampment or whatever has been totally wiped out. There's only like a few survivors, and they will join up with the Freebooters. The Freebooters are your mercenary orcs. Back in the days, you could actually bring them, if you were playing a different army, you could actually bring them on as mercenaries. You could actually pay to have orcs fighting on your side because they were actually hired. They're actually hired guns.
Interesting. Okay. Now, what can you tell me a little bit about each of these clans? Like,
sure,
what that actually means?
Yeah, sure. We'll start with the Goth clan. The Goth clan is the most violent clan of them all. They fight amongst each other. Most people see them, their armor's black, and they have a lot of checkered patterns on there. So, and they always have the greatest amount of knobs in their list because they deem themselves the best, most feared clan. So you'll see them having a lot more knobs, a lot more mega knobs. They always, again, don black armor. If it's a black armored orc, it's probably from the Goth clan. Their symbol is a double horned skull, or a trophy of a beast. So you'll see that their biggest Goth of them all, as we know, is Gaskell Thraka, which we'll go into a little story about that later. So how Gaskell started as a mere orc boy and became the prophet of the orcs. The knobs boys, just melee wielding orcs, biggest war bands, usually always the Goths. They are the most brutal yet fearsome orc clan of them all.
Okay.
We'll move over to the Evil Sons clan, which is the Evil Sons don the red armor. So the whole culture believes in speed. They want to go faster. They want to get somewhere faster. They want to just love the thrill of speed. They don't care what they're doing. They have the most war bikes. They have the most buggies. They have the fastest planes because they paint it red. And that's the only reason why, is because they paint it red. They particularly like mounted warfare. And so they prefer to just drive by their enemies and blast them with their guns on their vehicles, or have their boys shoot from trucks and battle wagons. They are reflected in the game as getting extra movement in the game, so they do have an extra inch of movement. There's also a sub called Speed Freaks, which are orcs that really like to go faster. So they get bonuses, a better bonus. They get a bonus to their movement if they have the Speed Freak keyword, so they get +2 to their movement. And there's a whole ton of special buggies designed after the horrible old school buggies, which we all seen back in the old days of the old war buggies. They want mounted combat. You'll see boys on trucks. You'll see boys in battle wagons. They don't want to get out, but if they have to get out, they will. You'll see dozens and dozens of war bikes with their DACA guns just blazing all over, and they'll sit there and whack you over the head, then just flee off. They'll just burn your and just drive by and throw all their burners and just burn you as they're driving by. They just love the thrill of speed. Their mechs make things go fast as fast as it can go. And they'll tweak this. They'll add an extra gubbin on it to make it believe that it's going to go faster. And that's what you'll see orcs just in red, and you'll see them. They have a giant red sun with large teeth on it. That's the emblem of. Also, too, you'll also notice a lot of them will have little yellow lightning bolts. That's also the orcs speaking glyphs, kind of like your Egyptian hieroglyphics. A lot of orcs glyphs to designate what job their vehicle or what job they have themselves.
Interesting.
We'll next go to the Blood Axe clan. Now, these guys are kind of the orcs that deal. Orcs don't really like the Blood Axe clan because they like to do dealings with humans, and orcs don't like humans. But the Blood Axes are kind of more of a militaristic society. They like to wear camouflage. Yeah, so they like to sneak. They don't like to be seen, but they do. There's a lot of Blood Axes that did a lot of dealing with Imperial Guard, and even Commissar Yark back in the day, who we all know that for those Commissar Yark and Gaskell Threk were mortal enemies. Yeah. Mortal enemies in the War for Armageddon. But Yark actually hired some death skulls because they paid them, and they were dealing. And the Blood Axes saw humans not as like friends, but like they saw how the guard were lined up in regiments, so they would kind of like adopt a regimental status, lining up and marching in, and they would have they would just like human culture. So they kind of developed that. It's kind of a weird. Back in World War II, they always had the Battle of the Bulge, where they had the English-speaking Germans that would try to infiltrate. Kind of what these guys like to do. They'd rather be seen and not seen. They don't prefer driving out there with a big old honking battle wagons, and they like to sneak in the shadows and come up from the sewers. And come up from the sewers. They are reflected in the game where they get cover if anything is shot more than 18 inches away. They do gain the benefit of cover, and they also can fall back and either shoot or charge to reflect their sneaky nature. But they do have the biggest amount of orc commandos, and they just like to not be there. Again, you'll see a lot of orc players paint their skin purple because, well, if they're purple, they can't be seen.
Gotcha. Yeah, makes sense. From an orc standpoint, it makes sense.
From an orc standpoint, right. Now we're going to go to the Death Skulls clan, which is my personal favorite. I adopted these guys for a long time. They are the premier looters. They like to do two things. They want to kill very fast and take everything and then just hoard it all. They're the orc hoarders of society. They'll take all your parts. They will take apart a rhino down to the rivets and take the rivets home because they believe that they can just scrap anything. They are the looters and the pillagers, and they value everything as we can build something out of it. I can strap a rhino plate to my arm, and now I've got extra armor. The mechs will they'll take the treads off and put it on a battle wagon. They will just weld everything they can, and they will make the weirdest mech guns. They'll take bolters and turn them into laser beams because they can, because they'll add this and that. They really want to they want to take apart. They want to kill you out of it, but they want to just sit there and take it apart. Which actually, back in one of the editions, Ludas could actually sit there and take a vehicle, spend a turn taking a wrecked, not an exploded vehicle, but a wrecked vehicle. They could actually spend time to take it apart. And I can't remember what the rule was, but there's actually a rule in the game for taking apart a vehicle that if they were within so many, if they had killed a vehicle, they could actually spend a turn to take it apart. And I can't remember what they gained.
I think they got a +1 to their armor save, right? They went to like heavy armor or heavy armor, whatever it was called.
Yeah, I think so. That's what it was. Yeah, there's actually, and they are it is kind of reflected in the game. There is a stratagem called Loot It, where any vehicle that does not explode within 6 inches, an orc unit can increase their armor save by 1. So they kind of brought that back. But the Death Skulls always see their armor painted blue, their faces painted blue. Maybe not all their face, maybe just a giant blue. It's their war paint. They always paint their something on them blue, because blue is the luckiest color. Because again, orcs believe that I can stop a bullet with my face, and if I'm painted blue, it's not going to happen. You'll see orc mechs, and the more ludas and mechs, and you'll just see a lot of more burna boys in there. Just everything all scrap. They are a orc horn. There's is a kind of the Goth horns go up. The Death Skull horns always go down, and they are reflected in the game by the Lucky Blue Gits, which gives them a 6+ invulnerable save because, again, their blue war paint can stop a las cannon. And they also get to re-roll a hit, a wound, and a damage roll because their weapons are lucky. And the one obscure rule that nobody really pays attention to is they always get objective secured for anything infantry. That's the one thing.
Including Grots and anything is small.
Well, Grets, they're because they're troop choices. But we're talking like commandos. We're talking ludas. We're talking characters. As long as it's got the infantry keyword, gets objective secured.
Okay.
So you can have like a unit of ludas sitting on an objective. You can have a unit of burnas get within 3 inches, and then they get objective secured. Anything with the infantry keyword in a Death Skulls clan gets objective secured, which is really can change a lot of games, and I've used it to my advantage. I've used it to my advantage many times. So, and I just paint. So I just love the color blue. And so I've kind of adopted them as my clan. The next clan we'll go with is everybody knows the Bad Moon's clan, the Yellow Moon. It's been throughout orc lore for the longest amount of time. You'll see the bright yellow armor, and everybody knows where that guy's from. Well, in society, orcs don't spend, orcs' teeth is their form of barter and currency. And the Bad Moons, their teeth grow back faster and longer. So the Bad Moons have the better equipment because they can buy better stuff, or they can just bash or most orcs will bash other orcs will bash a Bad Moon's orc in the head and take all their teeth to go spend more money, because the orc form of currency is their teeth. And Bad Moons have the longest and the most teeth of any one of the clans. So again, they're the snobby clan. They're the snobby clan because they think because their teeth grow faster and longer, you know what? We're the snobbiest of the clans. So their armor's always ostentatious, lots of yellow and brightness. And you'll see their armor's snazzier than everybody else's armor because they have the money to pay for it, the teeth to pay for it, and that's the way they view their societies, because we are richer, we can have this shiny armor. It's reflected in the game. For they get to reroll ones for shooting attacks. Although I do feel that is kind of underwhelming for their army. Because they have the better weapons, they can buy it, which makes sense. But I would have expected something better for the Bad Moons clan. An additional feature, like they would add increase 1 to armor saves, or gotten something else because they have better gear than everybody else does, and that is only reflected in the shooting, with re-rolling ones to shooting.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then we're gonna move to the Snakebite clan, which is one of the oldest clans, because orcs obviously didn't start off with guns in their hands and technology. Well, the orcs started with just like feral weapons, and there are orcs that never want to adopt technology, and they think technology, they don't say it's bad, but there's one orc clan, the Snakebite clan, that still believes the old ways are the best, and the old ways are just not subjecting themselves to technology and experiments. And so a rite of initiation for snakebite is you have to be bitten by one of the many snakes that they worship, and if you survive, you get to be a member of the clan. So, and they have a little known fact is the snakebites that they always breed the best Gretchen. They always have the best Gretchen. Gretchen are small, but these ones have like Gretchen on steroids, we'll call it. They always had Gretchens that were stronger than regular Gretchens. And actually, back in the older editions, it was kind of reflected that there was snakebite Gretchens that had a little bit better statistics because they were from the snake bites, if you just adopted them as that. But again, they just want the old ways. They don't shun technology because obviously they still need it, but their technology may not be as many gizmos and beeps and gadgets as everything. They'll still be there, but they'll be an old way of building it. They'll still take a mech gun or a truck, but it won't be a truck with a lot of snazzy electrical bits. It'll just be a rusty truck with wheels on it, and that's the old way. Their symbols are snakes because they worship the snakes. They'd rather be low tech. They just believe the old ways is the only way. You'll see the snake bites breed the massive squigoths. You'll see them. Those are the ones that raise the runt herders, which are a orc that is bred for just taming the Gretchen to make sure that the Gretchen stay in line. He's kind of like he's just there to make sure that they do their job, and he tends to the Gretchens. He makes sure the Gretchens are, and so they're ready to do they always have the best runt herders, the best Gretchen in the game. This is not really reflected in the game other than the warlord trait, but for their clan trait, they're army wide. They do get a 6+ feel no pain, which is pretty decent in the game. A free armor save is a free armor save. Their warlord trait defines it the most, where any unit within 6 inches is fearless, but Gretchen units within 12 are fearless with the snakebite specific warlord trait. Although I feel like they're kind of in this edition, they're kind of like the redheaded stepchild. You see people play your freebooters, your bad moons, your evil sons, and your death skulls, and you don't really see a lot of snakebite clans out there. Although they do make the best for conversions, because you can use a lot of savage orcs and a lot of the Age of Sigmar line to make a really dynamic really dynamic poses from those guys. I converted up myself a savage tank buster unit just from savage orcs, just by gluing rockets on their spears. And but again, they're kind of like the redheaded stepchildren of the orc society. Now we're gonna move on to the freebooters. Well, the freebooters are just basically what they are. They're the orc pirates. Everybody sees the jolly orc. They know it's a freebooter, But freebooters were just war bands that if an orc got kicked out of this clan because he tried beating up his boss and didn't like it, he'd get kicked out. Well, now that the freebooters are just mercenaries, they'll go everywhere. So they can just join the freebooters. And they're hired. Humans will hire them, elves will hire them. They'll do anything they want for $1. Well, or Teef in their case. They do pick up a lot of Gretchen, which was kind of shocking because the Gretchen get kicked out a lot because Gretchens get kicked out of if they don't do their jobs, disobey their masters. So you'll see a lot of Gretchen and freebooters because they want to be, hey, I can join this and not be as kicked around and shamed as much. The freebooters, there's always led by not a warlord, but there's always led by a captain. So just like your pirates, freebooters are led by not by a war boss, but by captains. Even though it's the war boss name, it's still called the captain of the freebooters. And everybody knows the biggest captain of them all is Captain Badrug because he's the captain of the freebooter, captain of the freebooters. You can see them. They're donned in snazzier armor because they get money. They get ways to buy things, so they buy their nice little coats. They buy their fancy snaz guns. They they get paid. They are your hired guns for whatever job you want to do. You could take them in any orc army without losing your clan ability. You can take them back in the old days. You could take them for your Imperial Guard army. You could take one unit of freebooters in an army. I think it was started back in 5th edition of 40k where you could just take a unit of freebooters if you wanted to and not be penalized for it. Just because they were free mercenaries. They'll do anything for $1. Their clan trait is a competitive streak because they want to outdo each other because that's what. So they will add 1 to hit rolls if a unit kills a unit. All units within 24 inches of that particular unit adds 1 to hit rolls. And this does apply in shooting and melee. So yes, you can theoretically have orcs, but you can have a skill of 3+, which is really, really,
and then
it's amazing.
Does that additional +1 also apply to their Daka where it's 6+?
No, because it's unmodified.
Oh, unmodified. Got it. Okay.
Unmodified 6s, but it can make your orcs hit on 4s, 3s, and it does go in melee too. So which means now your orcs going to hit 2s. It doesn't double stack though, as far as it doesn't add plus. It just adds +1. So, but Gretchen don't get it. Gretchen never get any of these clan rules. However, Gretchen in the freebooters army can spark the competitive streak. So if your mech gun blows up a vehicle, all freebooters using 24 of that mech gun will still go on the competitive streak as well.
Oh, that's interesting. It's 24 of the shooter, not 24 of the thing getting destroyed.
Right, it's 24 inches of the unit that destroys a unit. So if a Daka jet blows up a unit, all units of the 24 of the Daka jet will add 1 to hit rolls.
And that's really nice to know because a lot of those competitive or semi-competitive orc lists that bring heavy grot guns, you could use 1 grot gun in the very center of that to kill something that's easy to kill, like a light vehicle, a skimmer, a unit that only has a couple guys left, and then proc the +1 to hit for your whole gun line.
No, Gretchen don't get it.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Gretchens
don't get that.
But like Ludas would get it, right?
Your Ludas would get that. Your Flash gets, which are already gross enough as it is. They already hit on 4s, which would go down to 3s. So I like, if I play freebooters, I like to take a couple tractor cannons because they auto hit. So I don't have to worry about, I'll use that as my last shot if I know that I'm going to hit they do really well versus flyers or things with the fly keyword. So, if I'm down to 1 or 2 wounds left, I'll just use my tractor cannon to auto hit it. And then it's basically an auto hit missile launcher. So it's -2, no penalties, because it auto hits. And it's a D6 damage weapon. So that auto hit can make the difference of hitting that, Hemlock Wraithfighter that's -3 to hit and blow that last wound up, which now sparks the 24 inches.
Gotcha. Yeah, makes sense.
I don't play tractor cannons with pretty much any other army other than freebooters because you want that streak to go off. You want it to go off as early as you can. So it's about shooting what you want in order to get where your biggest radius. If you've got your Ludas on your left here, you don't want to shoot something that's kill it with over here because then it's not gonna. I mean, you could still 24 inches here, 24 inches here, but ideally you position yourself to where your main stuff is going to get a nice big aura of killing. A lot of people take the jets, but orc jets don't hover. We don't get the double pivots. So if your dagger jet's way out in the back, which 24 inch is going to get it? Nothing.
Yeah, it's not with the rest of your army.
So go ahead.
Now you did talk about, and it does make a lot of sense to have the speed freaks in with Red Skulls, right?
You mean the Evil Sons?
The Evil Sons, yeah. There you go. Sorry, I'm mixing up my stuff.
That's
but
right.
do you think that there's an argument to be made for some speed freaks in this army as well? You say,
absolutely.
You bring some flamers in, you toast a unit that's in the center with your flamer guys, and then all of your shooters and all the buggies around it are now hitting one better.
Right. GW purposely designed. If you know when the new kits came out, they came out with 6 kits, right?
Yeah, a lot of kits out of that box. It's a versatile box.
Right, but each kit was kind of specifically designed for a particular clan. So if you notice that when they released it, the Death Killer War Trek was kind of painted all black for Goth. You notice that the custom Booster Blaster was painted red for Evil Sons because it makes sense, right? You notice that the Boondocka Snazwagon was kind of painted blue from the GW for the Death Skulls. Yeah. You notice that the Shock Jump Dragster was painted yellow for the Bad Moons. So yeah, the Speed Freaks have, other than the Goth clan, I would not, because the new buggies hit on 4s in melee versus a normal orc hitting on 3s, which is something that a lot of people don't know, is they only hit on 4s in melee versus a typical orc. Most orc, like your battle wagons, like a typical orc would hit on 3s. Those guys hit on 4s, and they don't really have a lot of attacks and a lot of good melee attacks. But you're right. There's great ways of bringing Death Skull Speed Freaks. Why? Because they have a 6-up invulnerable save. You have a vehicle that has a 6-up invulnerable save.
Yeah, I mean that's an 18. You're ignoring 18% of your wounds then.
And they only have a 4-up armor save to begin with. So if you've got a 16% chance of negating a last cannon, that's, and then snakebite ones. If you want to go that route as well, you'll have your 6+ funeral pain on every wound is, a 16% chance of, negating that wound as well. So, and they're only 9 wounds or less. Most of them are 8, and there's 2 buggies that are 9 wounds each. But yeah, there's reasons to bring them all into every clan except for maybe Goths, but they do get the bonus movement and the bonus to not firing. No penalty for advancing and shooting assault weaponry in the Evil Sons clan. So they do get extra benefits for being there, and there's a couple more there's a couple Evil Sons speed freak keyword strats that benefit them. But yeah, I mean, most of my speed freaks are painted blue and red because I'll run a detachment of. I really like mixing Evil Sons with Death Skulls. I think you get the speed, and then I get my Death Skulls in the back to kind of do most of the work. But yeah, you're right. Freebooter buggies would be great because you could bring the guys up that flame and kill that guard squad off really quick, and then now you've got a 24-inch bubble from one of those buggies, which can add 1 to hit rolls for all the other buggies. That's an absolute great tactic that I never thought
of. No, I'm just thinking out loud.
No, that's actually fantastic.
From we touched a little bit. You did mention we were going to go back to it. There's the new box that came out with the named character.
Yes, Prophecy the Wolf, which I just knocked down. But I kind of had it displayed there just for on purpose.
You're good. You have extra boxes. It's all good.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So everybody knows Gaskell. I guess maybe a casual person doesn't know, but I think everybody's heard the name Gaskell Thraka somewhere down the line. They may not. But everybody, he was actually a lowly old goth boy at one point in his start. He was just a goth boy. You know what? Just a goth boy. He happened to walk into Mad Doc Grotznick's dock tent with his brain in his hands, and Mad Doc thought, "Oh, this is a great way to go with my creations and stitch something together. Awesome." Well, he actually took Gaskell's brain, put it back in, made an adamantium skull with it and an adamantium iron gob, and basically Mad Dog Grassic made Thraka who he is today. So he did the experiments, sewed his parts back on. Well, once Gaskell's brain was back inside his head, he started having visions. And I guess we should have touched on there was two orc gods, Mork and Gork. We forgot about that. So, Mork is the cunning but brutal god. So he's the more of the thinker, the strategist, the planner. While Gork is the guy who likes to just go out and crump your face in and beat it in. So Gaskell's brain started seeing visions of Mork and Gork, or what he thought of visions were more in his brain, and he started just prophesizing to all the orcs about Mork is telling me this, Gork is telling me that. We should do, and he started getting bigger and bigger. His head started getting bigger too, but and orcs started believing him more because his started getting bigger. And orcs always believe biggest is the best. And so he became the prophet of Mork and Gork, having visions of them going to war, destroying planets, raising villages, taking giant spaceships, and traveling the galaxy. So he started off as just a mere orc boy, but again, his brain was actually surgically re-implanted back in by Mad Dog Grassic.
And I think even in the latest lore, he has the biggest Wa in
right
8,000 years right now.
He does, yeah. And he does it. Even other orcs from other clans will follow him, even though they don't really like to, because it goes from Gork to Mork to Gaskell. That would be the hierarchy of everybody worship. They believe him. They believe he's got a plan for everything. They believe that he can kill anybody with just a snap of his claw.
So where do you think, this is a personal question, subjectively, where do you think they may go with this? Where's Gaskell headed?
I would say he's probably going to be headed somewhere. Ooh, it's hard to read the Psychic. I haven't read a lot of the Psychic Awakening books, but he's probably in a giant ship somewhere wanting to wait for the return of the Silent King.
Yeah? You think that's going to spark some stuff? Because even way back in the beginning of the lore, it was the Orks and the Eldar were bred to fight the Necrons. Yes. When the Silent King comes back, both those races they're gonna feel it in their core to have to take that guy out.
Right, because I feel like he's just waiting. He's being a little bit cunning, but still wants to be brutal and waiting in his giant world killer ship, where they call them rocks, which are just floating asteroids. Actually, their ships are called floating asteroids. So that's what they build a lot of their ships out of. It's just giant, huge slabs of meteors and rocks that are in space, and the mechs put engines on them, and now they believe it. Again, go back to the beginning. If they believe it, it can work, and that's why they put a lot of engines just on planes.
Yeah,
or not planes, but the asteroids.
The orcs, the mechs and stuff. There's no orc school of machinery. Their knowledge of their machinery, their technology, is all ingrained into their DNA. They know it from birth, and they know it because they do. It's because who they are. It's very interesting.
There are they are called odd boys, and odd boys are bred, like you said, there's odd boys, which are pain boys, which are like the orc surgeons, which are designed with orc physiology to stitch an orc boy back together to attach a gun to a person's arm. Pain boys also attach the orcs or Gretchen inside the Killicans and Death Dreads. If you are bred to be a mech boy, you are the mechanic. You're the one who puts the rivets in. Mech boys and pain boys are the same thing. They do a lot of talking together because one does the surgical work, one does the mechanical work on them. So the other odd boys are your weird boys, which are your psychic orcs. As you touched on earlier, you mentioned that all orcs are psychic, which is very good because all orcs are psychic. The weird boys develop all of their psychic energy from the chanting orcs, from the marching of the orcs. And that's how they resonate all of their power from all of the massive gatherings. Now, Gretchen, they don't generate it. They're just not good enough to generate enough log energy. Although they forgot about that part in the index when Gretchen could actually generate log energy, but that was the good old index days.
Good old index days.
Yeah, the good old when you could take 8 weird boys and have like plus 12 to cast.
Oh yeah, you're to be to jump and everything all the time. But those are the days of smites, multiple smites, and crazy no rule 3.
Yeah, I know. That's when you can always get super smite every round because you'd take 90 Gretchen and have plus 9 to cast, and you'd never not get super smite off every time.
Yeah.
But so orcs chant when they go into battle. You'll see orcs with drums, or making banging on their armor, just to, banging on their armor plates, banging on their guns. All that resonates psychic energy for all the weird boys, and the weird boys they just harness it all, and they shoot it either out of their mouth, out of their eyes. Back in the old days, weird boys had to have minders, which were orcs that were holding the weird boy, and they would actually aim the weird boy like a gun, and they would shoot it out of his. There was really an awesome metal sculpt of a weird boy being held by 2 minders. It was on a weird looking base, but yeah. So there was one post. There was one model of the 2 minders holding him like he was open, spread apart like that, and then there was another metal model of him actually aiming him like a gun with his head pointed down like that, shooting the glowing energy out.
Interesting.
I'm really surprised they didn't come out with those, like redid anything with that in the because they stopped, I think, in like 5th edition with the minders models, but like when the weird boy exploded, the minders would explode as well. The minders had to go as well. And then orcs, weird boys' power was always based on how many orcs were nearby, not their mastery level, or it was always based on number. And they kind of reflected that in the game, but back in the old days, it was reflected on how many models were within. That's how powerful the weird boys' spells were. Like, I think in 7th edition you would add 1 to the strength of every spell. For every 10 orcs, you would actually add 1 to the strength of the spell.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there's that. I mean, it would be really, really, really good nowadays to just add 1 to the strength of all your spells.
Yeah, I mean, and my favorite spell was like the Foot of Gork. I just wish they would have put that in. That Foot of Gork was such a fun spell in fantasy. I wish they would have done something like that. They kind of did in this lore where they got, I think, can't even remember, the Crunch. But it was actually a foot, they actually had a foot template. They had a foot template you could actually cut out and put down there, and Gork would just stomp on it. And that all models would suffer a strength hit based on how orky is that?
Yeah.
You just put a giant foot. And then they had Gork Scorpion where the foot would just move across the table, or would move and hit your own units. I really thought Games Workshop could have done a lot more with that than what they currently have. I was very sad that the foot. I really wanted the Foot of Gork to come in as a spell, because it's just so orky that it could happen.
Yeah, I wouldn't count it out. They did a lot of additions to the Age of Sigmar line with endless spells and interesting orc spells through that.
Right.
They probably could easily port some of that over in the rumored 8.5 or what will be 9th edition.
Right. I just feel like 8th edition lost a lot of the random orky flavor. I love the random effects that certain weapons had, or random effects that, an orc knob with a boss pole would just beat some orcs above their head and they'd pass morale tests. I miss the nature of that stuff, and that's what makes orcs one of the fun army to play. Whether or not you win or lose, who cares? You're having so much fun. I loved when the trucks would move 3d6 inches and then explode right after. If you roll on the chart and they'd move 3d6 inches and then explode. That. Go ahead.
No, do you think it's hard from a GW standpoint then to write rules for an army that has those kind of like random quirkiness, kind of like the Skaven are in Age of Sigmar right now?
They already kind of had the rules like in place from 7th to 6th. They just never translated it to 8th. I mean, like, you could have had like for example, we'll say for a truck, we know that vehicles explode. It does the mortal wounds. They could have had it to where on an orc truck, they could even specifically say an orc truck would roll when it's reduced to 0 wounds. Roll on this chart. On a 1 or 2, it explode. On a 1 or 2, everything. The truck just stops or shakes off the wound, shakes off and with 1 wound left.
Yeah.
On a 3 or a 4, it just on a 3 or 4, the truck just is reduced to 0 wounds, no explosion. All passengers get out. On a 5 or 6, the truck explodes. They could have done it to where it has a little bit, but what's the random game effect of it? If you hit it, reduces to 0 wounds, he rolls on a chart. Maybe he rolls a 1, and it doesn't or a 6, and it just shrugs off the wound, and it still has 1 wound left. Like you just didn't hit a vital part of it.
Yeah.
Because in 7th edition, you had to roll a chart. On a 1 or 2, a tire fell off, the vehicle just wrecked, and all the orcs got out. No test taken. On a 3 or 4, it would move randomly 2d6 inches and then explode. And on a 5 or 6, it would just explode.
I think though there's not many races in the 40k universe that have complete spin-off games devoted to them. Like Gorka Morka is a Speed Freaks. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but Speed Freaks, Gorka Morka, there's a lot of orc spin-off games. Orcs are one of the flagships for Blood Bowl, right. And they were the first one of the first Aeronautica Imperialis armies that came out. And
I remember playing the Orkland Raiders in Blood Bowl. That was my first ever Blood Bowl team, was the Orkland Raiders, and that was actually their team. So
nice. Yeah, I was a big Lizardmen Blood Bowl player, but that's just because I really liked painting those skank models.
Oh, nice.
But so we moved from like the story of how the orcs first got set up to where they kind of are today. You play orcs in a competitive tournament setting, right? You're even playing orcs this week, right? You said?
Right. Mm-hmm.
What do you think in an orc army is a must-have? Like, what do you should bring? What should you bring if you pick a different clan? Or say for Goths, for instance, what should Goth players look at bringing? And what's stuff that you don't think GW spent enough time in tweaking their points? Like a hierarchy of some of the orc stuff.
Right. So, I like playing the Deskal, so I like bringing a lot of mechs and vehicles. I like bringing a lot of vehicles. I just like bringing a lot of vehicles. But an orc player should always bring the shock attack gun. The shock attack gun has been a fun gun since it got in 4th edition, when it was just started doing random crazy things in the game. The shock attack gun has evolved through many different stages. In the first ever version of the shock attack gun, you actually had to buy snotling bases, because if you see the model, there's literally a snotling getting sucked up through the vacuum tube. So you actually had to buy snotling bases, and that would be your ammo for the shock attack gun. So you would pick the base up, and what the shock attack gun actually does in the lore wise, it creates a dimensional rift, and the snotling gets sucked up through the tube and gets launched through the warp, and then it ends up in the armor or the vehicle of the target, assuming of course the orc hits with it. So in the meantime, it creates a dimensional portal inside the armor or inside your vehicle, and all these deranged snotlings that have been sucked through the warp and had demons, and they're just going out with piercing claws and piercing teeth, biting your armor and disrupting all your systems. So that's the lore behind the gun, is creating dimensional rifts. But in 4th edition, you had to buy snotlings and then use them. You'd have to remove D3 bases, and that would be your ammo for that round. In 7th edition or 6th edition, it became a random chart.
And that's actually really interesting, because when you look at the orcs, and that they were created around the same time as the old ones created the Eldar, the weapons are actually, like, there's a very orky equivalent with that shock attack gun, but it parallels very close to the technology used by the Eldar in their D-weaponry, where they'll open up a rift in the object that they're shooting at in hopes to tear it apart from the inside. Where Orks just adopted that and said, okay, we're going to open up that rift, but we're also going to send a bunch of angry, crazed spore monsters through there to eat them from the inside.
Yeah. And in 7th edition, it had a random chart where you'd roll the strength before the gun. If you rolled doubles or 11, you had to consult this chart to where on a chart you'd roll double ones, the gun would actually explode themselves. You could actually launch the mech firing the gun in melee to where you could roll double sixes and just whatever the template touched would just remove from play. There was no rolling, no strength test, no initiative test, just whatever the template touched was removed from play. So, but the shock attack gun in a competitive standpoint should always be taken because it's AP -5, which unless you have an invulnerable save, nobody's saving that. It has D6 damage, which is the bad part about it. But a Death Skull's shock attack gun, you can re-roll that D6, which can make your damage from 1 to 6 for free without costing you a command point. Yeah. And you get the hit. You get to re-roll the hit, which we all know Orks hit on 5s. And then you get to re-roll a wound roll, which if you roll very low strength can make a difference. But the super shock attack gun, the shock attack gun is normally D6 shots, should go to 2d6 shots. It should always be taken. It should just always be taken because you can shoot twice with it, and it's only 80 points. 80 points for that gun that can just blow up a Bane Blade in one shot.
Yeah, you gotta figure point effectiveness. Orks are probably one of the best armies for killing potential per their point cost. Like,
yeah. Well, an Ork boy is only 7 points, and 2 attacks base, and you can kill even with just a simple Ork boy. You can still mow down a couple Eldar. You can mow down 2 to 3 guardsmen per Ork boy, which is already paying one. If you kill 2 guardsmen with 1 Ork, that already pays 8 points versus 7, so you're already getting better efficiency for your kill there. Clan-wise, you see a lot of competitive player play Bad Moons, or they'll Ork Soup is a huge competitive play where you'll mix your Death Skulls with the Super Shock Attack gun. You'll mix in your Bad Moons with the Ludas because why not having a mob with D3 shots, re-rolling your ones to hit, and then get to shoot again. I don't like to play them just because I'm not a meta player. I don't chase the meta with Orks. I just like to have fun. So yeah. I'll play. And my favorite, I love the Morkanot. It's a huge point sink, but for 18 wounds and toughness 8, it's almost as good as an Imperial Knight. Almost as good as an Imperial Knight. But I like it because you can buy a custom force field for 20 points, and now your 9-inch bubble is huge because the base on the thing is on the Imperial Knight base. So you've got a great coverage for a 5-up invulnerable save. And it gets a 6-up invulnerable save static in melee. So you still have that chance even when you get... And I just like the model. I just like the model itself. It's just so orky, so big, so full of just guns and full of just armor plates everywhere. It's really my favorite Ork model in the entire range. So, if you're gonna take Goths, you need to go boys. Boys are what make the difference because there's a 1 CP strat called Scar Boys, which gives your boys adds 1 to strength, and it's a multiple pre-game strat. So you can give any unit of Ork boys Scar Boys keyword, which increases their strength by 1, which takes them from 4 to 5, which we know in the game that is a huge jump.
Yeah, it's a significant increase.
Right, so you're wounding your Marines on 3s. You're wounding your Imperial Knights, your T5 on 5s versus wounding them on 6s, and that is a pre-game strat that can be taken by any Ork boys. So you just in their clan culture they give it a 6 unmodified 6 to hit in melee gives an extra attack as well. So you want to just load up on boys. Yeah, just and then combine that with there's a knob with a log banner which will add 1 to hit rolls, so you can basically hit on 2s. You can hit on 2s with 6s getting your extra hits. Should you take Thraka? I don't know. I haven't played 1 game with Thraka yet. He's painted. My friend Jesse painted him up. He's ready to go. I still can't. I I can't see myself taking 285 points for that model. If I was a golf player from the beginning, I'd probably take them. I'd probably take them a lot, but I could spend 285 points on almost a Morkanot.
Yeah, it's expensive. It's a sink. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean for a fluff game that I'm knowing that, and if I knew I was gonna play against Space Wolves and we were gonna do a Ragnar versus Gaskell, let's do that. Or Gaskell versus Commissar Yark, let's do it. Let's recreate those battles because that's. But I just can't see myself. Deskulls they have the best stuff so you want to take a lot of tank busters with them because you get to reroll hit rolls against vehicles and you get that nice reroll to wound, that one free reroll to wound, so that can kind of help you there. But the Deskull stratagem called Wreckers gives you reroll the wound, full rerolls to wound versus vehicles, so your tank busters can reroll all hits and all wounds versus a vehicle.
Yeah.
So a unit of 15 of them, you can reroll all your hits, which you get in your extra shots on 6s, and you get your extra reroll your wounds. They can take down, and you can't reroll the damage because it's a flat 3 damage. However, you can buy bomb squigs, which are D6 damage, which have the keyword. You can still use your reroll on the bomb squig to use your reroll on the bomb squig. I play a lot of tank busters for my Deskulls. I like running Shoot-A-Boys with rockets. The rockets are expensive. They're 12 points. They're one shot. But because you get a Deskulls reroll in the shooting phase as well as that, I'm going to take my reroll on a rocket launcher versus a Shoota. So yeah. I typically run a Shoota mob of 30 boys with 3 rockets because you got a 1 out of 3 chance of hitting, right? On a 5 or a 6. So, and then if I get a lucky shot, and then I can maybe get a second lucky shot in there and just shoot the rockets at something more important, and the shooters just go after the chaff. I really like to run Deskull. I really like to run Deskull Burners. They're the orc unit that really needs so much that they could have done so much better with them. I like to run them because of the reroll to wound strat. So it's a strength 4 versus vehicles, but you get those light armored vehicles, you still get it's auto hits, and I find I have weirdly uncanny successful luck just running Deskull Burners. I don't know why.
They have a decent AP, right?
Minus 2, yeah.
Minus 2?
Yeah, minus 2 in melee, yeah. Minus 2 in melee, so you get your strength 4, you're getting a really lot of attacks, so you're strength 4 minus 2, you take out a toughness 7 vehicle, that's 5s re-rolling. You can pretty much tear apart a good armor, a nice Rhino or a Razorback, or put some hurt on anything not toughness 8. So
yeah, and they're great to have as a secondary thing if you're in a Rhino situation and you had a cannon or your gun line in the back popped the Rhino. The burners are already up in the face to burn down the guys getting out.
Right, and so GW kind of made them better with the spanner rule. They have a strat called Clever Spanner, which you have to take a spanner as your quick mechanic. He's not a full mech boy. He doesn't know all the tricks of the mech boy. He's kind of like the mini mech. So he's kind of just a quick job. Hey, I got a loose lug nut. The burner boy says, I don't want to fix that, but the spanner's there. And he allows the reroll. He can reroll the number of attacks. You can roll 2 dice and take the highest number for their number of flame attacks.
Oh, so you don't roll individually with them. You roll for the unit?
2 dice. Yeah. You roll for once for the unit, but the spanner, with the Clever Spanner rule, you roll 2 dice, pick the one you want.
Interesting. Okay.
So, and then if you're gonna run your Bad Moons, because you want to shoot so much, it's all about volume of shooting. Take your Ludas. Because they fixed the no mob up. Everybody knows that they were mobbing up the 15-man Luda with the 10-man Ludas, and having a 25-man Luda, which could pump out 225 shots.
Yeah, that's
in one shooting phase.
It's good.
It's good, but they had to fix that because it was broken. It was, and it's sad when orcs have something broken and they have to fix it because you take volume shots. Take your Ludas, take your Shoot-A-Boys. Your Gorkanauts do really well in a Bad Moons army because they have so much DACA. that you're getting so many ones to reroll. You're getting so many shots. Your minigun has 18 shots. Your other guns have 12 shots. That's 30 shots you're hitting. You're rerolling your ones on. Just take as much shooting as you can and deal with that. Evil Sons is a fun army to play because you can go a melee focused Evil Sons army, or you can go the speed way of taking Evil Sons. A lot of Evil Sons bikers are really good because you've got the great movement of 16 inches plus 6 shots per bike at strength 5, so you can clear off a lot of chaff, and then your orcs aren't not slouches in melee neither, so you can still chop down whatever you want to get to, or if you just need that unit to tag a tank so you can't shoot, it's a worthwhile sacrifice. They have a really cool strat in the game called Drive-By Crumpen, just by the name alone, which allows them to to move after they shoot. They just cannot charge. So a unit of bikes can basically move 22 inches, shoot their guns with no penalty, and move another 22 inches. Say if you want to get out of, or go claim an objective somewhere, or just clean a nice little chaff pocket out, and then just move another 22 inches somewhere else to get yourself into cover, or go claim that objective right off the bat. It's a sneaky strat that nobody really uses, but other than the really good Evil Sons players. And then you can also, Evil Sons melee is really good too, because your orc boys are moving 6 inches per turn versus 5. So now your boys are getting there faster, and to jump. Now you need that with your +1 to a charge rolls. You need an 8 now versus that 9,
and that's huge.
Yeah. So Evil Sons is probably the most balanced of anything, because you can just play all vehicles and still advance and charge, or you can just get all your 90 boys and get them up the board super fast and still have enough stuff to still have your typical orc soup list are Death Skulls, Dreadwog, Evil Sons with nothing but boys, and your Bad Moons for your looters. That's a 1, 2, 3. A lot of you see a lot of ITC lists have that particular combination just for the loot, and they'll have a spearhead detachment of like Ludas and Smasher guns. Just you're cherry picking the best 3, which is what you're supposed to do in a meta. Blood Axe Clan, they're kind of interesting because they have a strat that allows you to, for 1 CP, you can anything power level 8 or under, you can just basically put it in reserve. So you could put your Ludas in reserve. You could put your and it's 2 CPs for anything 9 power level. Anything 9 power level or above. You could put your War Boss in reserve. You could put your Mega Knobs in reserve. So their strat is very useful for certain things. They have a new psychic power which allows no Overwatch, which is we all know in the game that no
Powerful.
Overwatch. Yeah. And it makes that the unit that's the target of that psychic power cannot fight until every Blood Axe unit has fought. So basically it fights last until every other Blood Axe unit has fought. So you can put it on your Riptide and charge your Riptide, and that Riptide's, you're not going to interrupt with a Riptide anyways, but we'll say not a Riptide. We'll say it's a unit of Berserkers.
Well, the other thing too, yes, you're right with the unit of Berserkers, but if you go to Tau, you could say can't fire Overwatch on the Riptide and charge something within 6 inches of the Riptide, and then the Riptide itself can't
use the greater good ability. Yeah. So, but you could cast Clever Talk on a unit of Berserkers, and then you could charge them, and they can't fight. Granted, they can still fight twice, but they can't fight till every Blood Axe unit has fought. So that's even your stuff not involved in that combat.
Nice.
So I don't know the wording because no FAQs come out. That could they spend the 2 CPs to interrupt combat or not? I don't know about that because they really didn't. Because Clever Talk says till after every Blood Axe unit is fought, but the 2 CP strat for interrupting combat, would that take precedence, or does the Clever Talk?
I don't know. I'd have to get a judge.
Right. So, there's a lot of FAQs because they've been been quarantined that I don't think they've done a Saga of the Beast FAQ yet. So I'm looking. Snake bites, boy, this is the toughest clan because they've got such the crappiest culture. I mean, a 6-up Field of Pain is really good, which means you don't have to buy any Pain Boys. But I can't see legit. Their strat is 3 CP. Their specific strat is you put it on something over 10 wounds, and any snakebite unit that targets that unit adds 1 to wound rolls, and it has to be specifically over 10 wounds, and it's 3 CPs. And Gretchen, like your mech guns, don't get, because they're Gretchen keyword, don't get that benefit.
Oh,
so
yeah.
If you want to put it on Magnus, okay, but then everything else but the guns you want to hit Magnus with aren't going to get that benefit of add 1 to wound rolls. So they're getting no love from GW, and I don't know why. I really don't know why. Go ahead.
No, they may come back. I mean,
yeah.
GW ebbs and flows on what they
right.
they end up giving love to.
What they don't like, what's not getting a lot of selling points, then they'll boost them up really good, and which is why all the buggies were so expensive. Nobody was taking them because they were so expensive point wise cost, and they had a massive drop of all 5 of the 6 buggies just went down like 20 points per buggy. And now your good buggies are like only 80 points. Your good buggies are only 80 points a piece, and that's a super good for an 8 wound T6 model that doesn't degrade. Freebooters, flash kits, bad rook. That's all you need. Flash kits went down like 10 to 15 points per model, and they're the only orcs that hit on 4s naturally, which is already super good. Their gun is 3 shots each at strength 5 or 6, 2 damage, and flat 2 damage. And they have a rule that after they shoot, you roll a die on a 6+, they get to shoot again. It has to be the closest unit, but who cares? Yeah. And you can buy ammo runts for the flash kits, which allows them to reroll a hit roll. So you're already hitting on 4s. If you get that clan culture off, now your freebooters are hitting on 3s. You take Bad Ruck, and they're rerolling their 1s because he rerolls 1s for all flash kits. So basically, you could have those guys pumping out 30 shots, hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, exploding 5s, or exploding 6s or 5s, and then you could possibly shoot again.
That's crazy. That's a lot of shots.
Yeah, now, the drawback of their range is they're only 24 inches, but you can spend 2 CPs to increase to 36 for 1 unit.
All right, so it sounds like a lot of what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the more dice in your orc army, the better.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sheer numbers. I feel in this edition, orcs are better, and I think you can agree to this, and a lot of people, orcs are a better shooting army in this edition than they are in the army.
Now,
go ahead.
So, if you're really going with a lot of dice, aside from the orcs and the models, do you have any tips or tricks for people out there to help them, like, not slow play or help with the clock or help play an orc army?
Movement trays. Movement trays are a huge help. You saw me at Michigan GT. I had my nice little plastic movement trays. I had all my orcs on them, and I was able to just move them. It gets a little chunky in melee, but movement trays help out. And really, like, think about your phases too. What phase do you want to have? Do you want to have if you're on a clock, do you want to have a longer, if you're going to skip your melee, do you want to have a long shooting phase? Spend a little more time in your shooting phase? Okay. Play that phase. Play that one phase to your strength. If you're going to have like a 25-minute shooting phase, benefit from it, versus like, hey, maybe I don't want to move this round as much or move up. I play orcs fast because I've played the army forever, and I know what the units do. I know my plan for what I'm going to do with them. You can't predict dice, but if you're going to run 18 smasher guns, good luck, because that takes a lot of time because you're rolling D3 shots, you could get extra hits, plus you got to roll 2d6 to see if you wound it. That's a lot of time for 18 smasher guns. A lot of time. Now, do you want to shoot 2 smasher guns at one target? You could to save time, but then you're wasting the efficiency of the gun. I feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, don't you if you're gonna an orc the thing is too is like melee is can get really long because you have so many dice and so many models and you just multiply it's just you got to do your math, you know. Okay, what do I need to kill this? You have to roll your attacks. You can't just like you can choose not to shoot in the game, you just can't not choose to fight. You have to roll your dice for attacks. I believe it said that in the rules where you can't like just I'm going to skip this model, not fight.
No, you can. It is in the FAQ. You could choose to forfeit rolling any dice in combat, but by doing so, you have to do so before you roll anything, and then you give your opponent the right to declare any outcome he wants. He can go none of your models die, all of your models die, or any combination in between.
Okay.
And that's, I mean, if you're looking to save time, that may be something that'll help you save time, but
Right. Because if you're going to throw 200 attacks against 10 guardsmen, do you really want me to roll this?
no.
Some people might. No.
Yeah.
But some people might want you to roll because, you know, again, using the clock to their advantage to say, yes, I would like you to roll it out.
Yeah.
So, and that's a good tactic against orcs is, you know, if you're going to play an infantry heavy army, take movement trays, make sure you've got a war boss nearby so you're not going to run away and have to worry about morale, and just make sure you pick your targets. You've got to pick your targets because you've got to know. You really have to anticipate what your opponent's going to and what your unit's going to do. You're going to have 30 shooter boys advance and charge. You're just going to have them sit back and shoot for a round. Are you going to just throw 10 Gretchen out, jump 10 Gretchen out to go take an objective? I've done that hundreds of times where I just send 10 Grats out there, go sit on an objective for one turn, score me my hold more, kill more, hold more, or my behind enemy lines in ITC play,
Yeah.
and they die. Don't care. You know, I feel the Gretchen, unless you're going to play a big unit for Grat shields, I throw them away. I don't. They're great for screening, you know, stopping snipers and Grat shields, but I will throw Gretchen out there just to go and get objectives. I'll make them make the first charge. They don't get the eerie go, but if I get one Gretchen model in there, you know, the Orc boys now don't have to worry about facing the Overwatch.
Yeah.
I use Gretchen as I use Gretchen more than I use Orcs as slingshots. It's so hard to jump 30 boys nowadays because people are smart and they screen out very well. But it's a lot easier to jump 10 Gretchen on 25mm bases, and sometimes you can get there to go tag that one Layman Rust tank that Layman Rust tank with a battle cannon sitting out there. Well, I may not wound you, but I survived a turn of that tank not shooting. Yeah. And is a guard player going to spend defensive gunners on a tank being charged by Gretchen? Maybe, but then you made him burn a command point.
Yeah, very much, very true. So you kind of touched on it a little bit. As an Orc player, what do you not want to see play against you? Like, what are you afraid of?
The biggest things I'm afraid of is that's a good question. I'm really not afraid of anything. I've had my toughest battles against Sisters of Battle. Believe it or not, my toughest games have come from Sisters of Battle. I've played 3 or 4 different Sisters players, and this is even before the new book came out. Sisters of Battle have been like, just because of the 3+ armor saves, most Orcs are AP 0. So you're still getting their 3+ saves. And even your bigger stuff's still getting your Celestine, you know, your 4+ invulnerables. Sisters are really tough to play against because the Sisters Repentia can just wipe out a unit of war. Have you played against the Sisters Repentia? The chain, the melee's crazed women with the eviscerators.
Got it. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I recognize that.
Yeah, they just tear it. They can just, if they get the fight first, they can just literally with a priest nearby, they can just literally tear one unit of orcs up before they even get to fight. And that's super scary to me. And my toughest competitions come from Sisters of Battle.
Do you think it's also the plethora of low pointage heavy bolter fire that they can put out? A lot of strength 5 -1.
Right. Exactly. And it's even the strength 4. It's even the strength 4 AP 0 stuff that hurts orcs as well, because you don't get a 6+ save. Granted, you're going to save 1 out of 15% chance of it, but It's the strength for it's the storm bolters. Believe it or not, like storm bolters give you a lot. You see a lot of sisters were taking storm bolters back then, and you're getting your 2 shots or 4 shots within 12, and you were just like sisters with storm bolters all day long. It's the strength 4, strength 5. It's the neg. The neg one doesn't matter with death skulls because I get a 6-up invulnerable save anyways. But for like your bad moons and your evil sons, it's the strength 5. It's your heavy bolters. It's your assault cannons. It's your multiple shot. It's your multiple shot weapons that really hurt orcs because they have the stratagem Green Tide for 3 CP. You generate a full unit of boys for 3 CPs. Unit gets to come back at full strength. So what most orc player, they gotta just kill that unit down to the guy. They just gotta wipe every orc out because there's that threat. Well, these 30 guys are gonna just come right back if I leave one guy back there.
Yeah. Does it have the same kind of restrictions that the Abaddon cultists bring them back does, or it can only be used once?
Yeah, once per game. Yeah, it's the same thing once per game, but it's 3 CPs versus 2.
Got it.
Because they made China Traders is 2 now. But there's another caveat to that. That orc boy mob cannot be mobbed up with another orc, so you can't take a mob of 30, mob them up with 10, and then use Green Tide to bring back 40.
Oh, got it.
So it has to be, and the unit has to be under half strength. You can't just like Tide of Traders. You could just literally kill your cultists off turn 1 and put them back on the table. You can just they don't have to be down to like less than half. The Unstoppable Green Tide has to be half or under the number of models in the squad.
Gotcha.
So you'll see a lot of opponents just focus on one unit because you got to kill it. I like to mob up. So it takes 2 units of boys. One has to be 10 or over. One has to be 10 or under. Those are the 2 restrictions of it. I love mobbing up. It's just so orky anyways, but it makes that unit of 30 a unit of 40 now. Yes, I can't use Green Tide on it, but now it's a huge leadership 40 bubble for all my other small. It's a huge leadership 40 bubble to run around my army.
And can you? I don't think we touched on that. Can you explain why it's leadership 40?
So orcs have a rule called mob rule, and mob rule states that orcs strength. We're gonna go strength. We'll just say strength in numbers. So the mob rule is as per those. We'll go mob rule. So when using this leadership characteristic of this unit, you can either use its own leadership characteristic, or you can choose a characteristic to be equal to either the number of models in the unit or the number of models with this rule within 6 inches. So you can have a unit of 10 orc boys pass off leadership 10 to a unit of 3 orc boys left. Or you can use a unit of 30, which can pass off to a unit of, say, a unit took 15 casualties. Well, now you can pass off leadership 30 as long as one model's within 6 inches of the other one. So you don't have, there's no wholly within 6 or wholly within 12 rule. So it's a really great tactic to make your army fearless without having to take a war boss or spend 2 CPs for your insane bravery. But I just like it because it's orky and it's what they should do anyways. But the biggest thing with the mobbing up is you get an extra knob. So when you buy the knob, who's just an extra boy, you get 2 knobs in the squad. So now you've got 2 guys with special weapons. Yeah. Or 2 kill saws or 2 big choppas. You got 2 guys that can have strength 10 in that squad with 4 attacks per guy. So now there's 8. So just 4 power claws coming at you. There's 8 power claws coming at you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. That's reliably killing a vehicle. Then you're just getting those 2 guys running them out front and then going into any rhino or, you probably with the sheer numbers, we're going to beat the rhino down anyway. But 2 power claws will definitely do it, even by themselves.
Right. So that's the benefit. Back in the old days of mob rule, you actually had to kill one of your knobs off because they wouldn't follow anybody else. So if they both had knobs and the boys' mob had knob, one you would have to pick which knob would be the leader, and the other one would have to die.
Well, that at least like is story or lore kind of lore equivalent.
Yeah, but they used to mob up within 2. So as long as they were within 2 inches, you could actually in the game you didn't have to spend in the fourth edition. You could actually just mob up the 2 units as long as they had the. You couldn't mob up like tank busters, like with anything else, but you could take a unit of 2 orc boys and put them in the unit of 15 and back. As long as they just within 2 inches, you just declare. They would have to take a leadership test, roll 2d6 on their leadership, and then those 2 units could just form one.
Oh.
So that was kind of a cool fourth edition rule when you actually had to take leadership tests.
Yeah. But it sounds like the orcs, like a lot of other factions in 40k, don't really play the leadership game much because of so many innate defenses that they have built in.
Right.
With just the amount of bodies.
And you can also take a war boss, which he can break heads, which means you can within 3 inches he can just do a couple mortal wounds and pass the unit. Thraka has an ability within 6 inches for his because he's better. If you're gonna play a lot of Gretchens, if you're gonna run, I've seen weird lists where they're running like 220 Gretchen. If you're not gonna run a war boss, you could spend 35 points on a runt herder, which basically means you can any Gretchen unit within 3 inches you can just kill D3 Gretchen and they automatically pass morale.
Wow.
So that's a cheaper non-force non-slot taking up slot. So it's pretty. I run it if I'm running at least 60 Gretchen or more. I will take a runt herder. I don't want to, but it keeps the Gretchen in line because they're only leadership 4. And if your war boss is out doing his thing, you've got nobody to. Those leadership 4, and a lot of guys run really fast when they die to bolter fire or even lasgun fire right off the bat. So you kind of want to keep them. If you want to keep your backfield a little bit better from screening off your deep strikers. I'm not saying I've never seen hardly any people take a runt herder, but I like it. I like if I'm paying 60 or more Gretchen, I'm always pretty much spending 35 points on one runt herder just to babysit in the back and keep my Gretchen from. I mean, it's better than losing 6 models versus losing D3 models.
Yeah. And
I could still keep, some of the secure stuff back there just to, use Grot Shield for it's just the way I play it. And with the Death Skulls, my runt herder's objective secured, so I can still go claim an objective if somebody's got like an elite choice on there. My one character trumps your Death Company out there. So again, it's something that not really too many orc players use that rule. I use that rule to my advantage. I love Death Skull Commandos because they can sneak behind. They can just deep strike anywhere, and then they can just sit on an objective and your unit of Hellblasters. Well, they'll die, but at least for one turn, I control that objective, and you don't.
So we talked about the lore here, the history of orcs. We talked a little bit about lists, how to make lore friendly lists, and then we talked a little bit about the competitive side on what models are good, what models aren't good, what you like to see, what you don't like to see, and kind of tips on playing orcs. I think the last kind of hobby aspect thing that we haven't touched on is essentially the hobby part of building and painting orcs. You groaned already. We just talked about how many models can be in an orc army. How do you get through that kind of like painter's block of I want to play with 300 boys? How do I do that?
Well, it really stunk last year when they decided to put orcs on 32 millimeter bases. They were originally all on 25s, and now they upgraded them all to 32s. So in tournament play, they want models on correct base sizes.
Yeah.
So it's been a painstaking process of I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but I've got base adapters that just go around the base of it to turn your 25 millimeters into 32 millimeters. You just file them down, put them around there. Just make sure you don't have any like loose sand around the rim of the base. Really good. I've gotten just wooden pegs, 32 millimeter, just wooden 32 millimeter discs. It's really hard. I did not want to take 400 orc boys and cut their legs off and cut their bases off and go through that all again. I did not want to do that. The best thing about orcs is you can just build whatever you want. I mean, orcs you could take boys and just put extra pieces on them to distinguish them between your choppas, your sluggers. You could the orc sprue itself has so much one little, they have a scope, they have a one mine, they have little extra knives instead of the choppers. They got little extra, just little field knives. They got packs of grenades you can just put on them. There's so much aspect, and the poses of the orcs really need to be redone as far as model wise for the regular orc boys. They're just so plain, but they're so easy for head swaps, so easy for arm swaps from any line of. You want to do your Sigmar line. You want to take your. I use a lot of black orcs from Age of Sigmar as Ard boys. That's a great model because they have the heavier armor, and so it's already built into the model. So there's just so much fun in converting everything. I mean, right now I'm working on turning a Death Dread and an Invictor Tactical Warsuit into something. Just gameplay wise, it'll probably just be a Death Dread, but I feel that on the hobby side of it, it's just the most fun to be able to make anything you want. And most people believe it because you know what? You're not like using dinosaurs as toys. You're taking some time to go through your bits box and hey, I'm just gonna put this quad mortar on top of a truck and use it as a lava, or I'm gonna take your laser lances from Shining Spears and use them as Zappa guns. I'm gonna take a unit of Fire Warrior pulse rifles and make those my shooter boys. Put a scope on it and make these guys are my Tau Fire Warrior. Or I'm gonna take take guardsmen the heavy weapon teams from guardsmen, and instead of I'm gonna set up 2 orcs on it set 2 orcs on it carrying the las cannon, or 2 orcs carrying the missile launcher. The kit range is. I've never gotten into a block. The only block I've gotten into is, do I want to paint boys or vehicles? And it's like,
what?
Do I want to do infantry, or do I want to do let my creative side go and build a vehicle? That's really the only things I have. But it is pain in the butt painting green skin a lot, so that's why I started painting a lot more of my faces. So I don't have to see a lot of the green skin all over the face. I just kind of paint the blue war paint on half their face, so I'm done with that. But the model range is not the best, but it's.
Is there ways that we can get around that? Like Age of Sigmar, do they have any good conversion models, or are there any other companies that have
like the Savage Orcs? The Savage Orc kit is a what are they? I don't even know the Savage Orc. The stat or not, I don't know what they were called in Sigmar, but that Savage Orc kit, 20 bodies coming for like $50. That's an entire squad of orc boys that you can just make with no armor on it. Cromlech has great third-party bits. They have orc greatcoat bits, which torsos, which can be like you can use them as knobs. They have Africa core bodies, which are like desert orcs. If you want to make them blood axes, kind of like, they also Spell Scroll or Spell Crow has a great line of orc heads from, I don't know if Chronic's got the Mexican orc heads with orcs with Mexican hats, 10-gallon Mexican hats on them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of I think of more range of anything. If you go to third-party distributors that you go to, you'll find an orc range. They just can't call it orc with, they just can't call it.
Yeah.
They just, and a lot of Cromlech stuff is amazing, even though I feel there's much more detail in them. But like the Orc Mega Knob, the Orc Mega Knob is like this big, while the Cromlech Orc Mega Knob is like that big and has that much more gears and pistons on it, but you're paying more of a premium.
Yeah, you are. So, if you are just starting out and you're interested in getting into orcs, like 500 point budget list, where would you start?
Boys and Gretchen, I would buy at least 2 or 3 boxes of boys. Probably 3 boxes. The start collecting kit, I would not recommend the start collecting kit is not really that super good because It comes with knobs, a Pain Boy, and a Death Dread. I guess if that's what you want to go with, but I feel that that's not a very good starting kit. I wish they would have had like boys in the starting kit, because I think is there 10 in the starting kit?
I think there are 10 boys in the starting
10
kit.
boys, 10, yeah. Buy your boys. Some people like, if you're just starting off, it's boys before toys. Buy your boys. Get used to playing them. Get used to hitting on 5s. Just get you, and then buy some Gretchen, and then a couple of little things you want to buy. Buy a unit of Ludas. Because you know what? It's fun to shoot long distance. Got to have some long range firepower. And everybody loves killer cans and death dreads. I would say maybe to start collecting boxes, an okay box. I particularly don't like I think they could have done a better job, but given the current range, the Kill Team box set is actually a really good box set. I think it's there's one Ork Kill Team box that's a really good one. You have basically a squad of Ludas and Burn. You get a Luda Burner kit in that box for the Kill Team, which is actually really good because you get a lot of bits to customize with it. You get basically an entire extra sprue of stuff, and that gives you kind of a little bit variation of what you want. But like I said, I bought in like 3 or 4 Kill Team boxes just because it comes with Ludas and Burners in the Kill Team box itself.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Nice. So is there anything that you'd like to that you think we haven't touched on yet?
I don't know. I basically, if you want to be, I'm going to say this: if you want to be a competitive Ork player, take your Bad Moons, take your Ludas, take your Death Skulls. But I feel in the years that I've been playing Orks, I've had so much fun playing. I've gotten my butt beat with me hundreds of times with Orks. But I think overall, I've never felt bad. Maybe I felt bad 1 or 2 times because I made bad mistakes. But I feel that Ork is an army that you can have fun with, winning or losing, and you can still be competitive, but yet still give your opponents really good games. They're not space. They're not Space Marines. They're not Eldar. They're not. They don't get all the good. They don't get the. If you're expecting the good treatment from Games Workshop, you're not going to get it. You want those? Buy your Marines. Buy your Chaos Space Marines. Orks are a fun army to play because there's a lot of bodies, and their rules are just. You can have fun with the army, lose every game you play, and still and still have fun with them. But there are a lot of competitive players out there. But just have fun with the Orks. Don't expect you to just go there. Don't go in expecting you to I'm going to just table my opponent turn 1. You can with certain builds, but I just feel like Orks have so much flavor in them that you can have fun with the army, build whatever you want, and just enjoy the hobby. I feel they are the best hobby army because of so many extra parts you get, so much extra. It's an Ork army. You can paint it to look like rusty and all scavenged and blown holes, and people aren't going to bat an eye. Oh, that's an ugly looking Ork. They're not going to say, oh, that's a crappy looking Ork army. It's all rusty. Well, yeah, because they're all supposed to be. These aren't shiny Space Marines that have, shiny powered armor, or Custos, which have gleaming gold armor. You can have Orks are the best hobby army out there because you can have so much fun with head swaps, arm swaps, just doing the pose, just doing whatever you want with it, and you can still feel the competitive fun. Very well painted. We've seen many, many well painted Ork armies. Marcus is one of them. We'll give a shout out to Marcus, who has a fantastically converted Ork army. Every model's converted of it too.
Yeah.
And you could just do so much with so little on a hobby budget. That is your hobby budget army because you get so much extra in every sprue. With the exception of the new buggies, every Ork sprue gives you extra parts to do extra things with. And that's why they really are the most hobby-friendly army out there.
Yeah. So, just like all our shows, we couldn't do this without the amazing people watching and supporting us. So I'd like to give a quick shout out. Since our last show, We have Warhammer with Yogi with a sub, so thank you. You rock. We've also had Tiger Lucky Charms, One Laughing Goblin, and Vol First all follow. So it was, again, thank you guys. We couldn't do it without your guys' following and subscribing support. If you did notice, we just got some art in for the little sub icon, and we've changed we got some art in also for the channel points, which is your bag of dice. We're working on finalizing some art for the emote, but that's coming in real soon for subscribers to have their own Team Bad Decisions emote. If you're interested in getting a hold of us for sharing hobby ideas, asking hobby questions while we're not online, feel free to contact us on any of our social medias. They'll be on the ending and beginning credits of this video. And you can check us out. Thank you for Makara Tharaka.
Makari Thraka.
Makari Tharaka. One day I'm going to get that right, like right off the bat. I'm close, but I'm not there yet.
Yep.
Thank you for your subscription. No, you're good. We didn't actually have a subscription last time you were here, but we upgraded to Real Boys.
We upgraded to knobs. We went from Orc Boys to Orc Knobs.
Yeah. But thank you again. Thank you everybody for all your support and your help. Again, it wouldn't be possible without you. We after this show today, we'll probably run some reruns of the past week's episodes. So feel free to stick around. Feel free to stick around and watch some of the older stuff. But that's kind of our time slot. Do you got anything to say, John, to wrap things up here?
I would like to say thank you again, like you said, and I want to thank Brandon, who takes a lot of his time to go through and be the IT guy and the guy who runs the, kind of keeps our flow going. And you do, I don't know, it's very well appreciated from us on the other end of Skype and the IT side, but you keep a lot of things going smooth, and we really appreciate you doing your job as being moderator, IT guy, Skype guy, and overall, just thank you for taking a lot of your hard-earned time out of your day to do this for us as the team.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it, and you are vastly overestimating the quality of time I have in my day. Because I could do this. I enjoy doing this. I love doing this. I wouldn't change it for the world. And John, you've proven again to me that you are one of probably only a handful of orc masters out there. Your knowledge of this group is amazing. But
thank you.
With that being said, I hope you guys are all staying safe out there. We are Team Bad Decisions. Go forth and make some bad decisions yourselves.
But stay safe while doing them. You're awesome. And guys. A giant wog to all those orc players that are out there listening or not listening.
Peace.
Peace out, everybody. All right, I thought that was pretty good. I get a little carried away sometimes. Sorry about that.
You're perfectly fine. Don't worry about that.